Our guest today is David Simons. He's a mediapreneur, a speaker, consultant, author, and he's the CEO of Kingdom Social Media, an agency that is known for helping thought leaders and experts to dominate the online markets using high quality webinars and premium online programs. He spent the last decade turning struggling webinars into high converting sales machines. For coaches and experts. I'm really excited to dive into how health professionals can monetize their knowledge with webinars. And I had the privilege this year to be able to see in person David Simons getting his 2 Comma Club Award at Funnel Hacking Live, which is awarded to entrepreneurs who have generated over $1 million in their business with their online websites. So David has so much to share on this space. And since I teach a lot about signature speeches and packaging your knowledge into a message, I'm so thrilled to have you on the show today. David, welcome to the show.
Enoch, such an honor to be on the show. Enoch, that's right. I remember to get it right.
Yeah.
uh, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be on your show, brother. I have profound respect and admiration for you. I always big up you and tell people that you're the guy for real. So, seriously.
Thank you. I appreciate it. When we met in Myron Golden's inner circle, I realized that there's something different about you. You definitely have this big heart, this drive for biblical principles, biblical wisdom, and just your genuineness has been one of my favorite people to interact with there. So I appreciate you being on here. So I want to ask you, what originally inspired you to start teaching people about how to create webinars? Why webinars? Out of everything that you could talk about, why this topic?
Yeah, man. I feel like with everything that I say, there's always a story. So I'll give you a quick story. Um, it starts really in corporate America. I was working for a company called TerraCycle, and we needed a way to really kind of engage the audience at that company. And they helped people recycle traditionally non-recyclable items like chip bags, cookie wrappers, turn them into products. And working with companies like Kraft, Frito-Lay, Huggies, and all of these companies to divert their waste from the landfill. So we had these groups of people that were collecting trash and submitting it and sending it in. And I came up with the idea, since I had a lot of creative freedom. I was the global digital media manager for TerraCycle. So we used to do these things called Ask Me Anything. So it's me and the CEO every Friday going through, and we used this software called Any Meeting. And my CEO was very frugal, right? So $20 million plus company, but very frugal. And we would do these things, and it would crash every Friday, and he'd cuss me out every Friday. And I just we need to pay for this software, right? And he didn't want to pay. So that segues into, I just paid for it out of my pocket. I said, this needs to happen and we need to do it right. So we did it right. And from there, I was like, well, I'm paying for it. I might as well start to use it for myself. So I started doing webinars outside of work for myself on Facebook marketing, LinkedIn.
What year was
and
this?
Then this is 2012, 2013, 2014.
Wow. That's when I started to first create YouTube videos.
Yeah, how about that?
That's neat.
Yeah, man. So I'm in there just utilizing webinars for myself, testing stuff. Got my first sale on a product that was $97. Was so excited, and so I had been building that craft of webinars since then. And fast forward to when I became an entrepreneur, we kind of focused on digital marketing, advertising as a whole, and then we speed up to the pandemic. Now this is where the game changes. I am in Ghana, West Africa. I've been hired to speak for an organization, and I'm speaking. This is March 2020. Everybody remembers that time frame or knows where they were. I was in Ghana getting ready to speak, and I'm there, and I got there early because my family's from Ghana, and they said, hey, David, the event's been canceled. I'm like, I'm already here. And they're like, sorry, this is serious. It's coronavirus and everything's canceled. NBA, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, this is really serious. So they're closing the borders to the United States, to get from Ghana to get in, and they're closing the borders from Ghana out. I'm the last flight out from Ghana to get back into the States.
Wow.
I lost 60% of my business overnight because all of my delivery of value at that time in the business was in-person delivery, in-person workshops, all these things that we were doing. So I prayed. I literally was on my knees asking God, what am I going to do? I don't know how I'm going to maintain this business. I lost my like all this revenue overnight. And he made it clear as day, David, you've always been good at webinars. Now's the time. I was like, what? So we started to do webinars. I start webinar after webinar after webinar during March 2020. I did one, made 10K, and then 20, and then 30, and then 40. And by the time I look up, we had made multiple six figures with webinars. And I did it with one presentation that I kept tweaking. And then people started to catch on. Like, I saw what you did. How did you do that? Clients are asking now. I mean, people are asking now. They become clients. Now we're doing that for clients, and then that's where we get to where we are today, where we teach all of this as well.
That's awesome. I remember, yeah, when in March 2020, I was in the middle of doing this live event too, and I had just brought in so much marketing efforts to come to it, and then like we get that announcement, it's like, well, what do we do? What's going on? And then when I
Yeah.
prayed, God's like, go online, do the hybrid event. So we
Mhm.
recorded in studio. And what's wild is we actually had like 10 times more people join because we went online and the recordings were
Mm.
better. We were able to take that video series and turn it into a course. And that was actually one of the first online courses that I started selling profitably.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
Look at
God can
that.
turn what would mean for evil into a blessing. And when we pray and
Oh yeah.
pivot. So
That's what's up.
that's amazing how you got started with the webinars and how COVID just kind of led you back in that direction. So COVID, you were doing webinars, but now in 2025, I mean, a lot of people will say, some people will say, webinars are dead. This is the old school. This is
Hmm.
like they don't work anymore. And now in this age of TikTok and short attention spans, like are
Hmm.
webinars actually effective today? Like how have you seen maybe webinar strategies evolve over recent years, or have they
Yeah.
just been tried and true and they're still good? Or what would you speak to that kind of thinking of attention span and that's old school?
Yeah. Well, first, I believe in, proof, right? So, um, shout out to our client, Chef Lisa, who has over 400 or so people registered, and we're about to have probably 1,000 people registered, and which means we're probably going to have around 500 people show up, and she's paying about $1 to $1.50 per click, right?
Nice.
Shout out to Lawrence, who's also going to have a webinar this week. We're paying about $6 per registration, and he's around 200 or 300, and he's probably going to have 100 or plus people attend that webinar. And so I just give these examples real quick because and ourselves, right? This is the key. It's got to be specific, and it can't be a generic webinar anymore. That's what doesn't work. Generic, oh, I'm going to teach you 5 ways to make more money online. That's not going to work. That may have worked back then, but now you have to come to a very specific pain point, and it's got to be something people can't easily solve on their own, and it has to be curiosity. Chef Lisa's is around. Let me tell you her title, right? This is kind of like, I want to give your listeners something to really kind of work towards and have insight on. So
This is
check this
great. Thank
title
you.
out. No doubt, man. No doubt. So her title, let me get that for you here, is five mistakes keeping. No, that's okay. That's Lawrence. Let me give you Lawrence's first. Five mistakes keeping most credit repair agencies from making an additional 10K a month easily and consistently.
Hmm.
That is not a generic title. That has a few things in it. It has a pain in it. So there's a lot of pain, the mistakes that are holding you back. We're always teaching from a pain angle. And then we have a benefit to it, right? And we have a very clear audience, credit repair agencies. And in his focus, that if you're not a credit repair agency, you're not coming. There's no point. right? So that's one key. Here's Chef Lisa's. Uh, Five paralyzing, notice pain again. Five paralyzing fears keeping you chained to a paycheck and stopping you from building the six-figure personal chef business you've dreamed of. You're
That's
not
funny.
going to have another webinar like that. How many people can say that? How
That's
many people
true.
can say that they're building a personal chef business webinar? Like, you're not going to see that online. You're not going to see what Lawrence is doing. So we create, if it's not a unicorn, we make it a unicorn. How do we make it unique? So this is the core reason why most webinars don't work. People don't take this time to work on this. They just build a webinar generically and they don't focus on a specific audience, a specific pain, and they don't focus on the pain. They focus on the pleasure.
So you'd say that like three secrets or three hacks or something, those wouldn't be good because those are more pleasure based, right?
So those are good for warm audiences that know you. Cold audiences that don't know you, they don't trust you yet. They need to see that you're helping them out of pain more than you're helping them to pleasure. And more people, I always say, are more people are more inclined to want to fix pain, which represents now, than pleasure, which represents then. If I'm in pain, that's right now. Like if my knee hurts, I want you to help me solve my knee pain now. If I'm going to retire, that's cool, but that's then. I'm not compelled to if I'm going to retire 30 years from now, I'm not compelled to do that right now. The thing that's paining me the most, I'm going to come and try to figure that out first.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of food for thought. What
Yeah.
about if someone doesn't have a large audience yet, they don't have a big following or social media, what would you recommend someone to do if they wanted to drive registrations to a new webinar?
Yeah. So definitely to drive new registrations, you talk about organic or paid or both.
Which one would you see would be most effective for someone who's just getting started?
So I always say your first webinar, do it organic, right? Tap into your list. If you have a list, if you don't have a list, here's what most people don't realize: you usually have a lot of context and a lot of people that are interested in what you do. You just don't realize that they're interested in what you do because we don't ask. So if you're a Gmail user, which like 70% of people are, you go to your Gmail. Inside of your Gmail, there's an area called contacts. You can see everybody you've ever emailed. Add them all to see if there's gauge interest, right? That's what I started with, right? What I didn't share with you about when I started, majority of those webinars were all organic to start with. I started organically, and it's only later when I added ad dollars into everything. So, and I didn't have a big. Here's what's beautiful about what we're doing. Me and our clients don't have a lot of some of our clients do, but a majority of them don't have a big audience. We're talking less than some of them less 5,000 people total, 3,000, some of them less than 2,000, right? So we're not talking about having big audiences. We're talking about understanding pain points, and so that's what I would do organically is tap into that. I used to use this tool called Hit 'em Up inside my text messaging, where I would use that to encourage people to come to my webinar. Right? Most people aren't gritty enough to to do it. They're like, oh, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. I'm not afraid of doing the dirty work to start. Right now, today, thankfully, we have systems that make it a lot easier. But most people aren't. Most people aren't committed to do that, and that's why they don't see the result. They got to be willing to, get some elbow grease, get their hands dirty, and do some unconventional things, which will get them unconventional results. And so that's what I would say on the organic side. Once you get the organic side, now you have social proof, especially if people take the offer. Now you got people that transformational stories, testimonials. You take that and then you feed that into your process for now on the paid side. So now on the paid side, again, for cold traffic, they're more inclined towards pain. And so you want to drive people towards a specific pain point that's going to drive to them, and then them seeing that other people have experienced the same pain and you've solved their pain is going to be more helpful to help them to convert as well.
It makes sense, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because I remember the first speaking event that I did. I got invited to speak, and I literally went to my email contacts. I went to everyone that I knew, friends, families. Like I was 17, so I was still in high school. So I got the email database of every teacher I've ever had since the very beginning of time, and I invited them all. I said, "Hey, I'm going to be speaking at my church, and I want you to come check this out." And the
Hmm.
place was packed. It was so full. There was almost no room
Yeah.
to sit. And so that works. And hit them up. I learned about that too. I remember using
Hmm.
that app now. In fact, I use Android. I literally bought an iPhone specifically so I could use that app and go invite people to my webinars, my events,
There you go.
and in our business, we
There you
made
go.
$500,000 on the back of one signature speech, which is included webinars that we did, the same presentation in person or online. And yeah, hit him up. Like, I'm so glad you remind me of that because that is some powerful, gritty
Yeah.
tools that you're saying.
Yes. Absolutely, man. That's cool, man. We think alike, man.
Yeah,
You're on the same wavelength.
we really
Yep.
do.
Yep.
So,
Yes, sir.
when would you recommend? So, you always encourage people to start with organic, some people that they know with their lists. At what point do you transition from organic to paid traffic?
Okay. Great question. When you've sold the offer, that's the simple answer. Take some of that money after you sold the offer, because if you're selling it organically, you should be profitable in some way, shape, or form. And even if it's like, hey, I got $500 to throw into it, I got ideally you want to have at least 1,500. That's the number we like to look at, and I'll kind of break that down. Let me give you the math on that. What we see is the average cost per lead is about $10. So if that's your cost per lead on average, the two examples I gave to you earlier are some clients that are operating below that, but $10, so $1,500 divided by 10 gives you 150 people registered. Out of the 150 people registered, let's assume, right? I'm trying to give very conservative numbers. You have 30% that show. The 30% that show, that's about 50 people. Let's say you have even, this is a model we use for a lot of our clients. Let's say you're doing a webinar to challenge model. You sell a challenge ticket that's $300. So 300 times, and we do a 10% closing rate, which is also average. 10% of those 50 people that came, time is going to give you 300 times 5. That's 1,500. I just covered my ad spend. So if I did that 3 times at a low case scenario, 3 times, and I did that 3 times, and I had all of my ad spend covered, I spent $4,500 on ad spend. Here's the reality: you'll probably get more ticket sales than that, but I'm trying to be conservative. Let's say you get 15 people in your challenge, and 15 people buy into the buy your challenge, and if you close 2 people on that offer, let's just say your offers even 5K. That's 10K you made in the day, plus the leads you got from only 15 people. Well, what if that number was 10,000? That's a $20,000 day. Or what if, in our case, you shoot high. We have a client, and you know him well too. Jabril had 4 people in a challenge that had 16 people, and he had a 25K offer, and he had a six-figure day with 16 people in it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So, just really reallocating the money that you make from your first sales to an ad spend budget. A lot of people think they can't afford to spend on ads, but if you just allocate part of the sales to it, then you can or even if it's a percentage or something, you could have an unlimited
Yeah,
ad spend just for however many times that you're able to sell. So that makes a lot of
that's
sense.
it.
Now,
That's it.
you mentioned from a webinar to a challenge model. What do you see are the key differences between when you would want to use a webinar and when you would want to? Well, what is the ideal length of a webinar? What's the ideal length of a
Hmm.
challenge? And when would you use them?
Oh man, it's a great question. So first, I'll kind of share. There's 4 models that we believe in. We call them the 4 paths to six, and we actually have a challenge where we teach this in more depth. But in the first model is webinar to product. That's where you're selling a product on the webinar, probably similar to what you did for the first course you were selling, right? And we find that anything $2,000 or less is like your threshold, because most people need a conversation after that 2K mark, 3K especially, and beyond. They want to have a conversation to talk about, payment or payment plans, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first model, webinar to product model. And for this model, an hour to an hour and a half is good. And I'd also leave in some cushion time to handle objections. So maybe 2 hours tops. Then there's a webinar to book call. Webinar to book call, hour to an hour and a half, no real Q&A, because all I'm doing is I'm selling the phone call or a Zoom call appointments. I'm using this to generate leads. This is great for service-based entrepreneurs that have a service. So this is a model we used heavily as well. That's going to be ideal, length is an hour to an hour and a half, like I mentioned. The next model is
What
a
price
webinar to
point
chat.
would you do for the call if you're doing the webinar to book?
Great. That's going to be anywhere from 2 to 10K. Anywhere from 2 to 10K. I wouldn't go over 10. 10 is now where we're at the point where we want to use a challenge. So webinar to challenge is our next model. Webinar to challenge, we're going to have an offer, maybe a webinar, and then we sell a challenge ticket that's anywhere from $100 to $300. We found the sweet spot is actually about 200, right? And then from there, by the way, that's a VIP ticket. So from there, and I want to share one nuance why this model works really well, because most people are used to seeing the first model I shared, a webinar to product, and on a webinar to product model, they're expecting, okay, what's the price of the course? What's the price of the offer and then you hit them with, it's only $200. What? You mean you did this whole webinar to sell me something for $200? Like, doesn't make sense. Why is this so cheap? People will ask that question. So that's part of the psychology why webinar challenge model works, because it's not what they expect. Now back to that model. Now we're in the place where you could go 5 to 30K, right? Because you're now, to answer your question on the challenge, we love a 5-day challenge because it obeys the 11-7-4 principle from Google, which says 11 hours, which is 11 hours of, 7 hours of time that you have with someone. They found the conversion to get somebody to buy from cold to purchase. They need 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 interactions. So I kind of said the order in backwards, but the 11 interactions are, could be touch points, emails, phone calls, different ways that you're touching them, right? So you just need to have that interaction. The 7 hours is the amount of time they spend. Time they spend on your YouTube, watching your content, watching your Instagram, watching your feed. The time that they spend watching and consuming your information, or, which the challenge is ideal for, the time they're in your challenge. So this is why we like the 5-day, because you got 2 hours. If you have a general and a VIP, ideally you have most VIPs. You now have a VIP spend anywhere from, if they come even 70% of the time, 10 hours, they're going to be there 7 hours, plus not including the time they spend doing the homework each night, which could be about another hour. So now you're at 10 hours. This is why it's easier to sell that offer that's anywhere between 5 to 30K, because you've spent the time to build the trust, because there's no alternative to selling high ticket. You got to sell to get high ticket or high value. You have to have high trust, and high trust is built with time. Now that's that model, right? So then the last model is a pared down of that version, which is a direct to challenge. So now we're skipping the webinar. We're taking them straight into the challenge, but we found the price point there is anywhere between $17 to $47, and where people don't feel like, oh, I'll risk that if this is at worst it's not worth my time. I'll lose $17. I'll lose $47, and not feel bad about it. So that's what the model we use. One of the popular models we use today.
Now, would
for
that
ourselves.
be 17 for general admission and 47 for VIP, or the VIP is 17 to 49?
A great question. Yeah, 17 for general admission and 47 for VIP.
So that covers your ad spend. So, and if you're getting $10 leads or even $20 leads, you'd still be able to at least break even for everyone who registers.
Yeah, that's possible. I will be transparent. We know, we go into it knowing that we're going to spend and not cover our ad spend right away on that model. This is the model I would use after you've kind of maybe perfected some of those other models. The direct to challenge takes a little bit of finesse to get it to be where you want it to be. But to your point, yes, at the end of the cycle of a challenge, even if you close one deal, which in some cases, we're teaching our clients. Most of our clients have anywhere from 15K up for their offer. So one deal more than covers the ad spend and anything, and maybe some profit over. And obviously, we're not trying to just sell one deal, but you get my picture there.
Yeah,
You get the picture there.
like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, that makes
hmm
sense. So I like the breakdown that you did with the different webinar models. It makes perfect sense. I never
Yeah.
really associated the 1174 principle to a challenge, but that's the moment you
hmm
said it, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Just associating
hmm
those frameworks. Now, there's a lot
Yeah.
of talk about doing live webinars versus automated webinars. At what point, like,
hmm
do you see a time for automated, or
Yeah.
what point do you go from live to automated? And if you do live, for how long? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, great question. I think live is always it's been the supreme for us. I know other people, other marketers in the space where the automated has been the supreme for them too. Here's the thing I'm learning, and I'm a transparent person. I am mastering and learning automation, automated webinars. That is our focus, automated webinars. And I'm going to say this here: we're also working on automated challenges, right? So that's our next level. By 2026, we want to be a master at that model. And what we're learning already on the automated side is that you need to use like live function. So it feels like a actual live webinar, but it's not. One person that's doing this really well right now is Russell Brunson with the Selling Online Challenge, right? I hope I didn't spoil his thunder there, but that is not a live challenge. It is a completely automated challenge end to end. So that is the model that works best. And most people don't know that Zoom has a like live feature that can make it look live, but it's not. Comments appear at a specific time. All the stuff that you would see, you just wouldn't know unless you know. And we're seeing that from our studies and analysis on this that most people don't know. They don't know that it's not live. So that's more of it's so it the reason so I say all that to say automated works when you make it look like live. If you make it obvious that it's not live, then it can work, but I don't think as well.
And then how about, like, as far as when you make something look that it's live when it's not live, how does that work, like ethically, or like without bearing false witness, or like
hmm
how have you processed that in your mind to make that right?
Yeah. Good question. I don't tell people that it is live. I don't say that it's live. I don't make it seem that I don't like it's not gonna I'm not gonna say, hey, this is a live presentation. I We record it in a way that it's evergreen and we position it so just like but here's the other piece that I want to add to it. We also, with what we're doing, we actually have somebody on the team handle support or service live. So when the live webinar is going, there's somebody paying attention to the chat. Hey, I'm trying to go to the offer page. I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble for my okay. Hey, is your browser? What kind of browser are you using? So somebody's getting support live.
So it's like a watch
Still,
party.
yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah. So that's how we maintain our ethical standard is we're not flat out saying, hey, this is a live webinar. We're saying this is a free training you can come to and learn XYZ, and it has a lot of some of the live components.
That makes sense. I remember someone, first time I noticed someone doing something similar, but he said in the recording, like, this is live. Oh, it was the one funnel away.
hmm
And they're like, yeah, this is live. What do you mean? And then people are like loading up the comments. And then when you see it in the replay, that phrase is in there. So the automation process, it sounds like it's live, but I knew that it wasn't. I was like, huh. And it just kind of like perplexed me in that regard. But I see what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I could see how you're not saying that it's live. You do have a live person to help answer some questions when they have that, and you're playing a video simulated there. Just being mindful of
Mhm.
evergreening it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of I want to ask you about your challenge. I still have a couple more questions, but you mentioned you do some
Yeah, of
challenge,
course.
so tell us about that. What do you do? What is your challenge about? Like I serve health educators who want to monetize their
Yeah.
knowledge online, so like how could they benefit from a challenge like yours?
Absolutely. So our challenge is called the Purpose to Profits Challenge. And we realize that a lot of people are making money online, and they're making money, period. And they're not making what my business partner Brian Adamson says, they're not making meaningful money. They're making miserable millions or miserable. Some people are making miserable money where they're making money, but they're miserable from the money they're making. And we want the alignment to make meaningful money. So if it's for the folks, your folks in the health space, if that's your desire, you should be making money with the gift that God gave you. And you should be fulfilled not just financially, but spiritually and emotionally. It should recharge you. You shouldn't feel like, oh man, this is drudgery. Yeah, it's a job. Yeah, I'm making money. Or yeah, it's a business. Yeah, it's something I'm doing. But at the end of the day, you don't feel recharged from it. So, so we make a very concerted effort to not just help people make money. It's not like that's what's different about this challenge. It's helping you to make sure there's an alignment first with your assignment. Is this clear on the assignment God has given you? Now that's clear. Let's show you the ways you can leverage this to go into these systems and mechanisms. So we'll cover the webinar model, but we'll on day one we cover the offer, and in the offer we're making sure the offer aligns with your assignment. Then when we go into the webinar, we talk about on day two we talk about webinars. And actually, day two we talk about challenges. So we talk about the challenge model, how it can work, and then we go into day three. Talk about webinars and utilizing the webinar that we were just talking about, the systems and the processes to make it effective to position your gift to the marketplace. Then we're going to go into the systems of like buying your time back. How? Because everybody wants to create wealth and everybody wants to create time freedom. So it's not enough to just create this business. We want the business to create a life that you can enjoy with the money you make. And then lastly is the systems to bring it all together. How do you piece this in one cohesive unit? So that's what we cover over the 5 days and helping people to do that.
That's really powerful. And we'll
Yeah.
have a link in the description where you could get access to David's challenge. It's definitely something I would encourage people to check out. He clearly knows his
Yeah.
stuff. He's got a lot to offer. So
Thank you, sir.
another question I have is that when it comes to creating webinars, what a lot of times, or like really sales messages that convert to clients, a lot of health educators think like, oh yeah, I've been a teacher for years. I've know how to teach and I've got all this knowledge that I can share. What would you say is a major difference between speaking to teach versus speaking to sell? What does that look like?
Speaking to teach and speaking to sell. Yeah. So here's what I have found because I my gift one of my gifts is teaching, which I know is definitely one of your gifts. And teaching, as great as it is, it can actually be a hindrance on the sales process. And I had learned, ask me how I know. I learned this the hard way because I'm a natural teacher, and it's good to teach, but you end up especially for those in the teaching gifting, you end up over teaching, and over teaching causes overwhelm. People are not going to be able to learn whatever it is. One of our mentors says you can't teach a kid how to ride a bike in a seminar, right? Like it's not feasible. I don't care what topic it is. If it's health, if you're trying to help somebody lose weight, you can't teach them how to lose weight in 3 hours, right? Even if you have all day, you need more time to go through the different processes, and you need the process to do its work. So over teaching is where people feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to do, and they feel overwhelmed, and then overwhelmed people are usually confused, and confused people don't buy. So now you're created an atmosphere. Your intention is to help them. So the best way to help them is not to overteach, which is why we developed a framework, and God gave it to me through just reading scripture, the parables that Jesus created through the Bible. You see that how he taught. He obviously understands psychology and understands Jesus understood how people operate and knew to teach them in a way that's not going to overwhelm them, right? Because there's a lot of heavy things that he could have gone through. You have the parable of talents, parable of seed sower, like all of these things. And so our method is called the parable presentation method. And in the parable presentation method, it goes over kind of what I shared earlier. When Jesus would teach, he always taught from a perspective of pain. I come to me, all those who are burdened and weary, I will give you rest. Anybody that's in pain, come to me. I'm going to help you. I didn't come to save the righteous. I came to save those who are sick, right? If you look through Jesus's message, he's always speaking to the ones in pain. So that's the first step, which is where we also derive what we do. We go to the pain. Then the second step is when he's teaching the people in the massive audiences, he's teaching them with story. So for my teachers, teach, but teach through story. Don't teach through method. Teach through story. So I would teach, instead of teaching about how webinars are like, this is the system for webinars, I would teach a story about webinars. Hey, when I taught with webinars, I used to think that I had to do 1,200 presentations. It wasn't until I created one presentation, and I did that over and over and over again. So I'm repeating myself because I want you to see what I did in the very beginning of our interview. I taught one webinar over and over again. This maybe 10, then 20, then 30, then 40. And then by the end of the year, I've made multiple six figures with one webinar using one presentation. I just taught a story, but I taught you the lesson of the parable, right? The story, and then the principle was one presentation. You're going to remember the story, but the principle's hidden in the story. So now, in the parable presentation method, we teach a parable around their limiting belief, and then they put a principle that teaches them so they don't feel overwhelmed. I've been served, but I haven't been taught so much that I don't feel like I can actually implement this. Now, to answer your second part of your question, this is how we sell, because now I feel like I was taught the principle, but I don't have the how-to yet. I need to learn that step. That's in our offer. That's in our program. And I'm now, you feel served, like I got the value, but they didn't overwhelm me, and I know it on a high level, but I don't have all that I need. Let me come get the other pieces that I need to help me go to the next level.
That makes perfect sense. I know, like, a lot of the first 5 years I was doing health classes, cooking classes, and health lectures throughout the nation, I was doing a lot of teaching, and I wasn't getting that much of the finances through it. It wasn't until I met a man who made $12 million on the back of one signature speech, one webinar he did, presentation he did online and offline. And I was like, what? And he's like, look, Enoch, facts tell, stories sell. A lot of times when we're seeking to over deliver, we're really being overwhelming. And so I love what you said. It's one presentation delivered again and again. So like, tell me, what would an average week look like for someone who, let's say they're doing a weekly webinar, what would their activities be like? What numbers would they be tracking? What do you do? How do you analyze a presentation if it worked well, and if it didn't, like what you're improving? Like, what does that even look like?
Yeah, that's great. So a couple of things we're looking at. First, obviously, registrations. Second thing we're looking up is the show up rate. And from the show up rate, we're also tracking those that show how many people stayed through to the end, right? To the end of that. And so there's a couple of things we use to help improve those factors, right? We're very clear up front what this is going to be. If, for example, if I'm doing a webinar to book call, I'm saying, hey, you guys are coming to learn about 5 mistakes most people are making when trying to have six-figure days. I want to let you know up front that on this webinar, I have nothing to sell you. You can't buy anything from me. The only thing you'll have is an opportunity to learn more about what we do if you find value. And if I've served you, do I have your permission to share the link to learn more about that? Yes? Great, fair, cool. So that means I can't present something to you unless you feel you've been served. Great. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the content, right? So right there, that is a sticking factor that I put in the very beginning because most people are wondering, what is the offer? How does the offer? What is this? And I made it so clear. That's a webinar to book call, by the way. So that model, then when I come to the time to book the call, I'm sharing with them, did I deliver? Yep. Yep. Did I keep my promise? Did you feel served? Yes. All right. I did my part. Here's what I'm presenting to you. Here's the book call link to learn more about what we do. And you're able to this is the value, all of those things. So that is one of the, I'm kind of getting back to your question. Let me get into the nitty gritty here. We're tracking that, but we want to make sure we have those pieces in place to make sure the show up rate is good. I mean, the stick rate is good through the webinar. Those are kind of things we have to make sure are in place. Then we're also tracking on the back end how many people did stay, right? That's the first thing we want to know. How many people did stay? How many people did hear the offer? Where was the drop off? Because there can be drop off. So I'm tracking that. I'm tracking the email opt-ins. How many people opted in? How many people are getting the opens on the emails? How many people are opening the text messages, clicking through from the text? Um, I'm tracking each. Okay, so now as far as the effectiveness of the webinar, I'm tracking the conversion. How many people took the offer based off of the people that stayed? So I'm tracking the number of the people that are on versus the people that bought. And then I'm tracking from there the instant replay. If we're doing a replay, how many people click through to the replay? And then now, how do you know if it's good or not? You go through and you look at your data. If you're recording through, if you're recording on Zoom, it does show you some data on the back end. So you're looking at that. If you're automated, it's even better. You have tools like Webinar Fuel or A Event. Some of these other things give you even more data. So you're tracking and seeing drop offs and attention, all that stuff. So you're able to see very clear what points hit, what points don't. Then from there, the ultimate factor is the conversion, right? What was the conversion on the offer? That's the ultimate number we care most about. So if you're above 10%, you're doing great. You're 15%, you're excellent. 20%, you're shooting with the best of them.
Right. So
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that clarifying what are the key numbers. Now, if someone wanted some help, some guidance to be able to do this together, you have a done together webinars, right? So can you tell my audience a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we found is there's a benefit to coaching and there's a benefit to some things that you just need implemented. And we found a hybrid of the two. We found some of the challenges with just pure coaching done with you, especially in our space and webinars, is that they'll get the information, but feel intimidated by the execution by building out some of these things. So we said, but at the same time, there's some people that get the done for you work and then they're like, man, I don't really know. I'm chained to the agency because if they don't do it, I'm clueless. So they don't understand. So we said, what's the best of both worlds where people get the understanding, they get the beauty of the done with you world, the coaching, and the beauty of the done for you world, the implementation, all in one space. And that's done together webinars. So done together webinars is where we literally work with you, help you slide by slide, help you build out the funnel, but we're coaching you on what to do here and there. And we're also guiding you through the process of watching how you do with your webinars, giving you feedback. So it's truly coaching and consulting mixed in together. And they can learn more about that at donetogetherwebinars.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And my last question for you is, I want you to imagine that you were on a hospital bed and you knew that you had 5 minutes left to live. But I gave you a microphone and you had the opportunity that whatever you speak into this microphone would be broadcast to every person on the planet. What would be the final words that you would want to leave with our audience?
That's good, man. I do have this in mind. I believe it's my assignment, the message that God has given me, which is that everyone on earth needs to understand the process of purpose. which God shows us in the parable of the talents. And in the parable of the talents, one had one, the one had two, and then the other had five. And in that process, God showed me at 19, the phases of the process are discover, develop, distribute. Discovery, meaning God is going to expect you to discover the gift that he's given you. If he's giving you the gift to teach, like Enoch or myself, he's not going to say, Enoch, this is your gift. David, this is your gift. It's going to be a discovery process. So you have to discover, just like those people that God gave them the talents, they had to discover what they had. The second step is development. God expects you to multiply, improve, turn better into whatever he gives you. He expects a return on his investment. He's a very good investor, and he wants to make sure there's a return. So the development is developing that gift or that talent into mastery, becoming the best that you can be at what he gives you. The last D is implied, which is distribution. God never, we know his nature. God never gives you anything to keep for yourself. Your gift is not for you. I can't, if I'm a tree, Enoch is a tree, I'm an orange tree, he's a blueberry tree. Enoch can't eat his own blueberries. I can't eat my own oranges. My tree, my fruit is for you. Enoch's fruit is for me. And the same for anybody listening. Your gift is not for you. So that means you have to distribute. What is distribution? It means to serve to many. And to serve to many means that you need to market that. You need to position that. So the last D is implied that God's nature is to distribute what he's giving you. So distribute that gift, develop that gift, and discover that gift. That is the process. But in order, it's discover, develop, distribute. That's what I would say to the world to get this message clear.
That is beautiful, and I resonate deeply. The parable of the 10 talents is my favorite parable that Jesus ever taught. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing that. And
No doubt.
how could my audience connect with you on social media? I've been watching your
Yeah.
reels. I've been seeing you
Thank
posting
you, bro.
content, doing interviews, and I've been loving it, soaking up all the goodness. I love your clips. They've been good. So how can my
Thanks, bro.
audience get to plug into this too?
Absolutely, man. They can connect on Instagram at David D Simons. So that's my name, David, middle initial D, Simons with one M, and find me on all the platforms that the same TikTok, Instagram. Instagram is where I'm at where I spend most of my time personally. We're also on YouTube, and they could also plug into our challenge if they want to learn more on anything that we talked about. It's very reasonable priced at purpose the number two profits challenge.com.
Awesome. And we'll have a link in the description where you can plug into that too. Thank you so much, David, for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure to interview you. And I love your topic, love your work, and I love you, your family. I believe in your
I love
work.
you
I
too, bro.
appreciate it.
Man, it's such an honor, bro. I still already, listeners, I want you to come back to our podcast that we did with Enoch. It's still, I told him this and I meant it. It's still one of the best interviews we've ever done. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal resource. So you guys are blessed to have him and have his wisdom in your ear.
Thanks. I
So,
appreciate that. What is the name of your
yeah.
podcast so they can find it?
How I Discover My Gift with
How to
David D.
Discover
Simon.
My Gift. He interviews entrepreneurs and people throughout the world who have done things, and he interviews them and asks them, how did you discover your gift? What is your gift? How did you find it? And that last message that he gave in those final hours of his life just now, he's got an entire podcast where he's able to ask people, if you want to know how to discover your talents, your gifts, and how to develop and distribute them, this podcast is a powerful resource of story after story of people's lives who have discovered their talents, and my story is there too. So I would definitely look up How I Discovered My Gift and plug in there. That's really powerful insights too. Thank you, and everybody who's listening, remember that God doesn't call a qualified, he qualifies a called, and I am on a mission to help as many, empower a movement of holistic health educators to gain the skills so that you can get your message to the market, to the masses, so you could save the lives of the people you're called to serve. And subscribe for more videos like this where you can find more interviews. I look forward to seeing you, and have a great day, friends, and God bless.